Well, welcome everyone back to another episode of the Property Perspective. Super interesting topic today, actually, because it's not one that we've covered yet at all, I don't think, from any of our lives that we've done. So today we're going to be talking to you about releasing equity from a property, whether it's your own home or other properties that you own, to use that finance wisely to help expand your property investment portfolio. And Shiv, as you were just saying, you've literally just gone through this with someone yesterday and across the last couple of weeks, which is super exciting as always, because often you don't realize how much money you might be sitting on that isn't actually doing anything for you. It's not actually working for you. And by having a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of know-how on how to access those funds and where to place them, you could literally sometimes double or triple a small portfolio just by releasing some equity and putting that money to good use. So Shiv, why don't you talk us through what happened over the last couple of weeks with this kind of use this as a case study, and just describe what that person was sitting on, obviously no personal details, what that person was sitting on, what they were able to release and how it's helped them increase their portfolio.
Yeah, okay. So first thing to say, like you said there, get your money working for you. It's because what I want everyone to imagine is that their money, every pound of their money is like a little soldier. And the soldier's just sitting there in the house waiting to go out. He's sitting in the barracks waiting. And when you invest your money, you send your soldiers out to work for you. They get out and they start doing stuff and they start generating stuff for you. So each pound that we have is a little soldier that we're sending out to go work for us. And I think that's a really important analogy. The second thing is that if your soldiers are sitting in the barracks and not doing anything, they're just becoming lazy. They're lazy soldiers. And the money that you have sat in your house at the moment, if you're not doing anything with it, it's just lazy money. It's sitting around doing nothing. And the reason why we know that is because if you don't have a mortgage at all, then there's a huge cost of that money, which is the inflation rate. And if you do have a mortgage, the cost of that money is ultimately that mortgage, right? So your mortgage might be, for example, I don't know, 3%, for example, on a residential mortgage, 4%, whatever it might be. But you could be earning yourself, 10, 11, 12, 15% return. So you're borrowing at this kind of like 3-4% rate. You're making this 15% or whatever it could be on a, average over a 10-year period or whatever. And so every year you're making this kind of free slab of growth of money, of equity, of whatever you want to call it. You're making this extra money basically by borrowing from the bank and then using their money to go and buy buy-to-let properties. And this is one of the most important things about property and buy-to-let property specifically, is this ability to leverage, this ability to take the money that you have and then buy multiple properties with this money that you have. So what happened with this client, which I met a couple of weeks ago, was he's got a house. His dad helped him buy a house in North London, and that was his residential house. And he owns that house outright. So a residential house like this, I don't know, I think he said to me the value was about 650,000 pounds. Owns it outright. And I appreciate that also not everyone's going to be in this position, but it's important to just understand the principle of how this works. Owns a house outright and was just sitting in the house doing nothing. His money was lazy. His soldiers were not working for him. And he said, what's this thing that you're talking about? I said, well, we're talking about investing in property. And he says, oh, yeah, I've got this one property. I've always been thinking about investing in more properties, but I didn't know how to do it because I haven't got any money. And I said, well, you've got the house that you've got, and you've got equity, all this equity in the house. And you could, if you wanted to put that to good use. And we talked about the northern property investment market and why that is better in terms of bang for your buck than the southern property market. And he knows about that already. And then we said, well, he said, how would it work? And I said, here's how it would work. You would take, and let's say we start small. So rather than saying, let's take a 400, 600 grand mortgage out, let's take a 200 grand mortgage out on this 650,000 pound house. That means your loan to value is like 30%. Your rate's going to be better. Everything will be way, way better. You take 200,000 pounds or 210,000 pounds is what the number I told him to take out of his house as a mortgage. You take that money and you invest it into 3 properties. With those 3 properties, you're now going to make somewhere between £3,000 and £5,000 rental income net per annum. So let's just call it 4 to make the math easy. If you've got 3 properties at £4,000 a year, that's £12,000 that you're making on these 4 properties of rental profit per annum. But what you have, and this is after the mortgage for those buy-to-let properties has gone out, this is profit. Then what you have to take into account is the fact that you now have this £200,000 mortgage that you've taken out on your residential property, and you still have to pay that mortgage interest off, don't you? So if I do the calculator right here in front of me, so I've got £200,000 because he actually had £20,000 in his bank already. So £200,000 is the mortgage that he's going to get, multiplied by, let's just say 4% as a residential interest rate right now. That's £8,000. So £8,000 is the amount of money that he's going to have to pay towards his mortgage, but he's getting £12,000 worth of income. So he's going to have £4,000 a year worth of additional income. But no, that's not the exciting bit here. What we've basically just said is he's been able to buy 3 properties for free, essentially. He's been able to release the money from his one property, his residential property, buy these 3 properties, cover all the mortgages on these 3 properties, cover the mortgage on his residential property, and still have £4,000 a year left over. Plus, he has 3 properties now that in the north of England that are increasing at a rate of, say 7.5% a year. And if you're buying them at, say, £150,000, let's make the maths easy, just 10% to make the maths easy. £150,000 a year, 10%, that's 15 grand each, times by 3 properties, that's 45 grand. Even if we say 7.5%, it's still going to be, north of £30,000, plus the £4,000 of income that he's made on the rental. We're looking at £35,000 of growth every single year for free. It hasn't cost him any money because he has basically just borrowed the money from the bank against his residential property. And people will say, some people might think, oh, well, this is kind of a risky strategy. And I want to, let's be clear here. Of course, whenever you borrow money, there is more risk involved than if you don't borrow money. This is 100% true. But is it a risky strategy? I want you to consider, Dipesh, there's a saying that I heard the other day, which is that property is the security on which all other securities are based.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good that when you go to the bank and you say, I want to buy this house, they'll say, don't worry about it. We'll give you 75% of the cost of the house. Why would a bank give you 75%? Because they know they can charge you interest, and they are so confident that that property is going to at least stay the same, if not go up in value. So the bank bets on the property. They are so confident this property is going to go up in value that as a result, they're willing to give you 75% or even 90%, sometimes 95% of the cost of this property. So I think that when we talk about that it's a risky strategy, I don't think it's a high risk strategy. I think if you're younger, so if you're kind of, let's say, under the age of 50, then this is a perfect strategy for you because you've got years to make this work for you. If you're over the age of 60 and you kind of think about retiring and stuff, then maybe for you, you're kind of more thinking about paying down your house, reducing your liabilities, etc. But when you're in growth phase, like for example, we would be, or anyone that's under the age of 50 would probably be in growth phase, trying to grow for themselves or grow for their children to pass on for their kids. They're going to be looking at saying, how can we make the most that we can as quickly as we can? And this is such an easy way of doing it because most people don't even realize that they've got this equity tied up in their house.
So that is obviously an incredibly powerful strategy, let alone anything else, because you're utilizing money that you didn't even realize was sitting there, or maybe you realize that it is there and you just weren't sure how to utilize it. But when you take out a certain amount, in this case, that 200K, because it allows you to buy 3 properties in the north, which is still insane, because when you consider what 200K would get you down south near London, it's just about a flat, let alone a house when you really consider it. So considering that you're buying a freehold property, 2 or typically a 3-bedroom house like how we do up north, it's incredibly powerful because you're getting 3 properties worth of rental income as well as 3 properties worth of capital growth. That is then allowing you to not just pay off the debt that you've just taken out on your existing property, but also profiting above that as well. Now,
and actually, you can use that profit, that £4,000 profit that we're talking about. If you don't want to do anything with it, you could just pay down more of your residential with that £4,000 profit. So you could actually repay more every single year.
So someone who's considering doing this, or now maybe just listening to this, thinking, I might have 150, 200, maybe even £300,000 sitting in my property. They might think, okay, let me just go and speak to someone right now and see how much money I can take out, and then see what they could buy with that. Obviously, me and you spoke about this about a week ago on why people should, if they've got the ability to release equity, why they should strategically wait before taking that money to speak to us. Can you just talk us through why they should talk to us first and our team before they go and release that equity?
Yeah, 100. Great question. And I think you're so right. That so many people think to themselves, the first stage is releasing the equity and getting the money, and then I can think about what I'm going to do. Absolutely not. That is absolutely the wrong way to do it. And here's why that's the wrong way to do it. As soon as you release that equity, as soon as you get that mortgage money into your bank, you are going to be paying interest on that money. We just said here, for a £200,000 loan at 4%, you're going to be paying £8,000 a year. That works out to what, £650 a month or something like that. That means that £650 a month you've got to now find until you have rental income coming in. But in order to get that rental income, it's months of work. Our service takes a good 6 to 8 months to get up and running. So, and if you're going to take another month or so to come and talk to us, etc., we're talking about like 7 to 9 months to get this up and running. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to lose that £650 multiplied by 9 months. Let's call it 12 months to make math easy. We're talking about £8,000 you're going to lose. What you actually want to do is come and talk to us, because the mortgage advisor is part of our service. And what we really want to do is we want to line up when you get the money out from your residential house to when you need to put the money in to buy the buy-to-let properties. So imagine this. Imagine that you speak to us and we get it all sorted, and we can line it up so that, for example, on Friday, you're going to get the money from your residential house out. And then on Monday, we're going to complete on the same property. In fact, even better than that, Dipesh. On Friday, you get the money out. And on Friday, we're going to buy the 3 properties, which means that you don't have any waiting period. You can literally start receiving that income pretty much as soon as possible. We have to obviously do a refurb. We've got to rent the property and stuff. But, there's no reason ultimately why we couldn't, rent that property straight away and get that income coming in. So it's really, really important that you don't go and release the money on the side, because you'll just have to be paying interest, and you may not have realized that yet. What you absolutely need to do is come and speak to us, because there's also a couple of other things that you're going to need to get sorted. You need to get the understanding of whether you're buying your personal name or a limited company name. You'll have to speak to our accountant to do that. And this is all part of our service. You'll then have to make sure that you understand that when you're going to get a mortgage, who's going to be on that mortgage? Is it going to be you? Is there going to be other people as well? And again, is it going to be a limited company name? So there's even if you do decide to go with a limited company, you might want to set up a limited company bank account as well. So there's a couple of these steps that we need to go through beforehand, and these can take easily a month to get through. So that delays the entire process again. Absolutely, come and speak to us first so we can line everything up for you, so that you're not just wasting money. You're not paying interest when you don't have to.
Exactly that. And I think this is what's really important, and the message that I want to get across to everyone as well. We're not just here to help you buy a property up north as part of your investment portfolio, whether you're starting or whether you're building. If we're here almost as strategic partners to help you throughout this process. So like Shiv just said, if there's a way that we can save you, in this case, 4 months worth of interest repayments on a refinance, we will do that. If we don't need a certain amount of money on day 1, but we need it on month 3 or 4, we will make sure that we plan accordingly to make sure that we're saving you 3 to 4 months worth of payments. So you're not just wasting money. Like when you're refinancing and putting that money into a property, you are investing that cash. And we are here strategically placed to make sure you get the maximum return for every single pound that has been refinanced and then put into another investment. So, go on, Shiv, you look over.
And that's what people pay our fee for. That's absolutely it. On one hand, it's a case of, yes, of course, we can negotiate the price of the property better than you can, because we've been working with these agents for the last decade. So we know them, we're friends with them. So we can negotiate better price, we can negotiate better terms, we can easily save you £5,000-10,000 on the price of property. So already we've got the saving. On top of that, like you just said, if we use this as an example, £8,000 worth of interest, that's if you're borrowing £200,000 on a residential property at 4%. It might be at 5%, it might be more, it might be £10,000. We can easily save you that as well, because we're lining everything up for you. And that's the whole point of using our service like ours. Because we know all the steps in the process, and we know all the partners to use, and we know exactly how long things are going to take, we can line things up. If you don't know every single one of those things, you'll try and line things up, but you just won't be able to, because ultimately what will end up happening is you'll say, okay, cool, my money's coming, I'm going to try and delay it. Oh wait, my mortgage expires now, so I can't delay it. I've got to get the money out today. Oh my God, I haven't actually got the properties that I want to buy yet. You got to go and find those. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly where our value comes in.
Absolutely. Well, that's the topic of today, and that's pretty much covered everything there. So anyone listening to this who's sitting on a property, and you, by the way, you might not have a property that's fully paid off. Shiv already mentioned that, right? You might have a property that you've owned for the last 15, 20 years, where you've been paying down the mortgage consistently over a decade or so. And you might be sitting on a property where you've paid off half the value of the property. You might have, and this is why you need to speak to us, you might have money sitting in that property right now that you can utilize strategically to start building a investment portfolio for yourself, where you might even get additional income to help pay your existing mortgage. So guys, that's what this process is all about. It's helping you maximize and utilize every penny and pound that you have to help you essentially get out of the rat race faster, so that you can live a life of more freedom ultimately. That's what we're here to help you do.
I want to just highlight that point that you've made, Dipesh, by giving some numbers to people, because I think numbers always help people to understand.
Yep.
So imagine that right now you have, I don't know, for an £800,000 property, and you've paid off some of the mortgage, and now all of a sudden you don't owe £8,000 worth of mortgage. You only owe, for example, £400,000 worth of mortgage. Okay, so you've paid off half your mortgage. You're £400,000. That means you have £400,000 worth of equity. Now the bank will easily let you borrow. Obviously, on your residential, it depends on your income as well. And in fact, that's a quick point to note here, and I'm taking a segue again. Your residential mortgage depends on your income, and your joint income with your partner, for example, you get 4.5 times whatever your residential income is. That's how much mortgage you can get. In this case, this guy's mortgage was whatever it was. That's why he can get the income that the mortgage that he did. But with buy-to-let properties, this is the question that he asked me. He says, "But Shiv, will I be able to get the mortgage on the buy-to-let properties? Because my income is not amazing." And I said, of course you will, because when they look at the mortgage on the buy-to-let properties, they don't look at your income so much. They're looking at the property as a business. They're saying rent is the revenue and the costs that come out. And is there going to be cash flow? Is there going to be profit at the end? Yes, there is. So therefore, we know that you're going to be able to pay off this mortgage with the rent that's coming in. And we know that this property is going to rent out. So ultimately, it comes less down to your personal residential income. But yeah, we said £400,000 mortgage, £600,000, £800,000 house. Well, again, you can just take out £200,000. So now your mortgage goes up to 600,000, and that's still 75% of the £800,000 house. And again, you can go and buy these three properties. Let's use the same numbers again: £8,000 worth of interest, perfect. You're getting £12,000 worth of income. You use the extra £4,000 worth of income to continue, like you just said, Dipesh, to pay down your mortgage at £4,000 quicker per year. So you not only have you got these three properties that are working for you, but you're also paying down £4,000 a year extra on your mortgage, which you wouldn't have otherwise been doing. So that's why this releasing equity is such an amazing system here to get people started on their buy-to-let investment journey.
Exactly. Right, guys. So you heard it here today. From the, do you know what? We need to start counting the numbers of the episodes that we're on. But you heard it.
We should.
Today's episode of the property perspective, and we've got some exciting stuff coming up in the next couple of episodes, which the next one's going to be in 2 weeks' time. And I believe with everything that's going on right now in the market as well, the next episode we're going to be focusing on what's happening with the base rate, because there's some interesting stuff happening there. No spoilers here. Tune in 2 weeks' time, and we will cover what's happening with the base rate, how that impacts you, how that impacts your ability to invest in property, and why it's going to be of benefit to you to get involved
right now.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much. Shiv, always a pleasure.
Cheers. Bye-bye.